The biggest culture shock for me was the fact that I actually had to think before I put food in my mouth, because I didn't know how it was going to taste. See, here in America, I just kind of shove everything in my mouth and just go with it, because I like to eat. But whenever I was over there, I had to have like a minute of thought before I would put it on my plate, and then another minute at the table staring at it, thinking about whether I should put it in my mouth and eat it. And so that was a wake-up call for me. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? But towards the end of the week, it got under control, and I just started eating again.
The biggest culture shock for me was, it's very small, but it made a bigger difference than what most people might think. When we got our first drink in Ukraine and we couldn't get ice, because Pastor Randy always told us that we couldn't drink the water, but I guess none of us realized that, ice is water, we just frozen. So when we couldn't have drinks with water on like hot days, it really made a big difference. So that was definitely a huge culture shock.
The highlight of this trip was definitely on Wednesday. My little girl, she bonded with me right away. She turned to me and in English she said, "Emily, I love you," after I tried to talk Ukrainian to her. And it was the sweetest thing ever, and it just stole my heart.
I saw God move through the relationships that we built with the Ukrainian ministry team and the people we encountered on the trip, because God really helped us all to have a certain unity about us despite the language barrier, despite different cultures, and the progression of our relationships with everyone we saw day to day was a clear moment of God moving throughout the week.
One way I saw God move was the fact that He got me on this trip. Every year up to now, I've had baseball every summer where I've been playing 40, 50 games a summer where I have not been able to go on a mission trip at all. And this was actually my first ever mission trip in general, which was very cool. And the fact that I got to go on it with my dad, which made it 10 times better because I'm about to go off to college and not see him. It was a great bonding experience for me and him that will carry on for the rest of our lives. But God moved me to go on this trip. And I don't regret a thing about it. I could have played another season of baseball, but I felt guided to go on this trip. So that was how God moved to get me on this trip.
Every day I asked God, I was like, please let me communicate with these children, because I had at least 20 kids that I couldn't do any more than smile with. And about halfway through the week, we found a way that we could communicate, which was they had a little hand game, and all of a sudden they would just come up and would put their hands in mine, and we would put this counting game, and they would do it in English for me, and then they would teach me the Ukrainian numbers. And so even though I couldn't actually talk with them, I was able to play a game with them. Almost every free moment we had, they would come up and just shove their hands in mine, and we played games for 30 minutes every chance we had. And so that was a big blessing.
I'll always remember the times when the Ukrainians and our ministry team sang together, and it was really awesome to see, despite the two different languages, all of us singing together with one voice to our God.
One thing I'll always remember is, going over to Ukraine, there's definitely a big language barrier. It was almost a little overwhelming how still receptive they were of us. And how much they tried to communicate with us, even though we couldn't communicate back. The Ukrainian people, it's very easy for them to understand what we are saying to them, just because the English influence is around them a lot over there. So when we couldn't understand anything that they were saying back to us, they always tried to find new ways that they could communicate with us, and they learned how to sound things out that we would try to say, and we would try to guess what they would say, or they would use hand signals. So it was something that it was almost like a game every day, but it was kind of cool just to be able to learn their words just by how they would try to guess what it was, and you could kind of pick up on that. So it made not only picking up on the language easier, but it was just a very fun way to communicate with them, and it was something that made the bond so much more special between them.